Hello everyone. Today we are going to learn how to use the apostrophe to express possession with multiple owners. And we are going to learn two rules, and the first one says, where two or more people own one item together, use the apostrophe and S only after the second named person. And there we have some examples. The first one says, Bill and Mary's car was a lemon. So let's imagine that they are brothers and they have one car as media transportation at home. And the other one, Carla and Kathy's house has always been my second home. Then we have another one, Ken and Harry's ice cream. So in this case, we are not going to use the S because it is a proper noun ending in S already. So we are going to use only the apostrophe. And in the last one, we have Bob, Alex, and Annie's homework assignment was well organized. So in this case, we are using three subjects, Bob, Alex, and Annie. And in this case, we are going to place the apostrophe and the S in the third subject. So we're going to move on, and this is the second rule, and it says when two or more people owned two or more items separately, everyone's name should take the possessive form. So in this case, it's completely different as the previous one because we're going to put the apostrophe and the S to both subjects. And in this case, let's see the examples. Jones and Toads. So as you can see, both of them has the apostrophe and the S because they have different cars. Maybe John has three cars and they are of different colors, and Toads as well. So John's and Toads cars were bought from the same dealer. Then we have another one. John's and Mary's pet cats are adorable. It's the same. It may be that that John has three or two cats and Mary's has only two cats. And the other one, Richard's and Michael's backpack were bought in different stores. So when you see two names with apostrophe and S, that means that they own a backpack, but the backpack is different for each subject. So this is all talking about how to use apostrophe with multiple owners. So thank you so much for paying attention.
Hello. To continue to the apostrophe, the use of the apostrophe, I'm going to explain possessive in plural nouns. Plural nouns are words that refers to multiple persons, things, qualities, or ideas. Okay, and you have to know that plural nouns that doesn't end in S can be irregular plural nouns or plural nouns that doesn't change. For example, sheep, singular and plural form is written in the same way. So it depends on the context that we use them. Okay, now to start, possessive plural nouns ending in S. Where are the dog's bones? We have here the apostrophe. So, in this case, we only use apostrophe. We don't use S. We don't say where are the dog's bones because it's not correct. Now, the baby's crib. The baby's is a plural noun that ends in S. So we only use apostrophe. We don't say babies. This is not correct. Can you see airplane's wing? As you can see, the plural is ends in S. So for that reason, we only use apostrophe. We don't say airplanes. This is not correct. Then we have not ending in S. For example, he always corrects people's grammar. And the plural form of person is people. And as you can see, the noun doesn't end with S, it's with E. For that reason, we use apostrophe and S. This means he always corrects grammar of people. The men's toilet is not open. The plural form of man is man, and this noun ends with N, so we use apostrophe and S because the noun doesn't end in S. The mice cage. The mice's cage. This means the cage of the mice. Mice is the plural form for mouse. And the plural form doesn't end with S, it's with E. So we use apostrophe and S. And that's it.
Hi everyone, I'm going to talk about apostrophes, including possessive nouns, singular nouns ending in S, and nouns without S. But what is an apostrophe? An apostrophe is a punctuation mark used in contractions to replace missing letters. For example, the contraction will stands for we will, with the apostrophe replacing we. It can also show possession as in Mary's car. The apostrophe indicates that the car belongs to Mary. A possessive noun is a noun that possesses something. In most of the cases, a possessive noun is formed by adding an apostrophe plus to the noun. Or if the noun is plural and already ends in S, only an apostrophe needs to be added. What are singular nouns? The general rule is that the possessive of a singular noun is formed by adding an apostrophe and S, whether the singular noun ends in S or not. The possessive of a plural noun is formed by adding only an apostrophe when the noun ends in S, and by adding both an apostrophe and S when it ends in a letter other than S. Now, here I have some examples of possessive singular nouns that are those house, books words, girls dolls, birds chicks, and sister's room. It is very common to see this noun. Also, I have some examples of possessive nouns without S that are men, women, children, and people. For example, men's games, women's fear, children's games, people's house, and those examples. That's all.
Hello guys, I'm going to talk about contractions. As we know, we use contractions. For example, I'm, we're, in everyday speech, in informal writing. Contractions with are sometimes called short forms. Commonly combine a pronoun or noun and a verb or a verb and not in a shorter form. Contractions are usually not appropriated in formal writing. We make contractions with auxiliary verbs and also with be and have when they are not auxiliary verbs. When we make our contractions, we commonly put an apostrophe in place of a missing letter. The following are the most common contractions. For example, contraction with I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. In this case, the contraction of I'm is I'm. The contraction of are is your, for example, your, we're, and their. In this case, is and has, the contraction is, for example, his, she's, its. In this case, have, you've, we've. Okay, contraction with auxiliary verb and not. The contraction for not is and. For example, the contraction of are not is aren't. The contraction of cannot is can't. The contraction of could not is couldn't. The contraction of did not is didn't. The contraction of has not is hasn't. The contraction of haven't is have not. The contraction of is not is isn't.
Hello, today I'm going to explain the use of the apostrophe in special cases. We have three different special cases. The first one is singular names ending in s and classical or religious names. We find a little bit difference in this case, but most of the time we find s apostrophe s with names that finish in s in the case of Charlie S or in the case of Amarilis. Which is the difference in this case, or what we are trying to say in these cases? Well, in the case of Charlie S, we have almost a contraction form to say something. In the case of Charlie S, we have, maybe if we don't have the S apostrophe S, we are going to write that Charlie's car wash. But in this case, because we have S apostrophe S, we don't have to write that. So we omit that. In the same case of Amarilis. Amarilis Beauty Salon. In this case, we don't have to use the Amarilis Beauty Salon, and we are omitting the in the same case. Then we have classical or religious names, and here is the difference because in Charlie's we add apostrophe and s before the s of the Charlie's. So we have Hercules, son of Zeus. In the case of Hercules, that is a classical name, we just add an apostrophe at the finish of the name. And almost because it finishes in S, it is not necessary add to another thing. So we have Hercules. In the case where we don't have the apostrophe, we have to say Hercules, the son of Zeus. But we have the apostrophe, so we don't have to say Hercules, the son of Zeus. Just Hercules, son of Zeus. In the same case of Judas, we have Judas apostrophe and betrayal. Judas betrayal, so we don't have to add the betrayal or Judas before of Judas, and we are trying to say the same thing. Continue with the topic. We have the second one special case that is no noun after an apostrophe. Well, in this case, we use it with possessive things. And almost we use it to avoid repetitions. And almost we have to use if the clear or the topic that we are talking about is clear for us. I brought some examples. In this one, the first one is my car is cheaper than Peter's. In this case, we are avoiding car because we know that we are talking about a car and that is cheaper than Peter's car. So we know that we are talking about cars, and the cars are of two different people. Not in example, I'm talking about my own car and another car that is mine too. In this case, we don't have to use this structure. Then we have her computer is newer than Sandy's. Almost we are avoiding or we are omitting computer because we know that we are talking about a computer. In the last one, but not less important, we have the letter C, that is for period of time. In the case that we are referring to a decade and we want to abbreviate. In this case, of using the full number, we don't have to use the apostrophe. But if we want to abbreviate, we have to use the apostrophe before the S. And in the case of examples, I brought the hippie movement marked the 1960s or 60s. In the case, as I mentioned before, we have to use the apostrophe before the S. And the second one example, the Arab-Israeli conflict and the final of the Vietnam War dominate most political life in the 1970s or 70s. Almost it's the same case. We have I brought the two ways, the full number with S and the abbreviation. In this case, we have the S, but we don't have an apostrophe. And in this case, we have the abbreviation, but we almost have the apostrophe before the S. So that was my explanation, and I hope to doing good. And this was all for me. Have a good day. Hello, today I'm going to explain the use of the apostrophe in special cases. We find three different special cases. The first one is singular names ending in S and classical and religious names. Well, in this case, all depends because most of the time we are going to find phrases or